Being Latino, especially for Latino men, recognizing or acknowledging that something is missing or something is wrong with you or that you feel that something's off about you, because image is everything to us. To not be afraid. Look, there are solutions to the problem. There are solutions to hair loss problems, and HairClub was one of those solutions for me, and it gave me my hair back.
Welcome to HairPod, the podcast where you get to hear real people talk about their hair journeys. I'm your host, Kevin Ralston, and each week I get to interview people from different walks of life whose lives have been touched by hair loss in some form or fashion. Many of our guests have experienced hair loss themselves and found a way to get their confidence and their hair back. This week is special because I had the opportunity to interview one of the members of the HairPod team. Today, Oscar Camargo is joining us to talk about his own personal hair loss journey and to share his experience with the stigma surrounding hair loss. In this episode, he brought up an interesting aspect of his hair loss that hasn't been brought up in any of our other guest episodes, but that a lot of people can relate to. For him, the culture he was raised in played a large role in how his self-image changed when he started to experience his hair thinning.
I'm Colombian and was born in Bogota, Colombia way back when, and come from a very large family as well. Looking at, 12 aunts and uncles from both sides of my family. So we're looking at 24 aunts and uncles and all these cousins. And then, so it's a large family. And, with that comes a lot of the culture. The Colombian culture is very much, ingrained in you have to look your best. You have to feel your best, and present yourself. Something that my mom always instilled in me was, hey, before you go out, make sure you look good, look the part, and walk with that confidence. Now, growing up, I did have, a lot of hair. I did have that, big puffy hair that the Latino men have and the little wave that comes in, that suave look. And unfortunately, because hair loss is hereditary, and it starts to, trickle down to the different family members. I started to see my older cousins lose their hair. And then I started seeing my father lose his hair start thinning out. And then I was like, well, hopefully it'll skip me and it'll just continue down the line.
Right. Yeah.
Fortunately, that's not what happened. I got the bad gene, and unfortunately, I started losing my hair pretty severely up until the last, I would say, about 10 years or so.
Okay.
It started thinning out pretty good. But me being Latino and, the culture having, such a big, important part of my life, I just didn't even think about it until I started looking in the mirror more. And as years went by and I started, seeing the receding hairline, I started to seeing the widow's peaks become more wittier.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I started seeing more skin and I started getting sunburn more on my face. I was like, oh man, okay, something's going on. But again, I didn't think too much of it up until like the last couple of years where it got really progressively worse and I just had to do something about it.
Was there a moment that sounded the alarm bells for you? Because I think that for a lot of guys that do lose their hair, there's a certain level of tolerance that you take, and there's just that prayer that it's not going to get any worse. You're like, okay, as long as I don't lose any more and I just stay here, I'll be okay. And realistically, that's not the case, unfortunately, with men. And we're in denial because we just think it can't happen to me. What was your final point where you said, okay, today's the day I need to act and I need to do something about it?
It's a funny story with that. And the reason why I say it's funny is because I've been, working with a HairPod team in HairClub for about 7 years now. When I first came on board with them and, I was all happy. I was going to be working for a great company, well known. And I thought to myself, man, I'm never going to need their products. I'm never going to need this, right? Again, because I myself felt confident enough to where I thought I felt good. I mean, I felt good, I looked good, and then enter in my biggest critic, which was my youngest daughter.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
Years, when we would talk and we would just be joking around, she's like, "Why don't you get hair? Why don't you? What you work there? Why don't you get your hair back? Why don't you do that?" And I started playing it off like, you're just being a kid or whatever. But part of my job with the company is to take photographs and to video. And so when I was looking through the behind the scenes photos that were taken of me taking photos, I began to see the crown of my head just get wider and wider as the years went by. Fast forwarded to what I would say about 2 years now, about a year and a half, almost 2 years. I took one look in the mirror and I said, wow, my hair, where has my hair gone? And that's when I decided to say, I need to do something about it.
It's important to hear people talk about this because I know Oscar's not the only one who has ever been through it. Oscar was brought up in a culture that emphasizes presenting yourself well when you walk out the door. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Whether it's something we learned from our parents or family members or society at large, it's important to acknowledge that the way people perceive us matters. And it's up to each one of us to decide how we want to be seen by others. Not presenting ourselves to the world can have a big impact on self-esteem. It can impact not only how others treat us, but how we perceive ourselves. Insecurity can be a heavy burden to carry, and most people try to carry it alone. For a lot of men and women, feeling like your self-image is changing in a way you can't control can be overwhelming.
And I started to become more self-conscious about how I looked in front of other people, how I presented myself. Again, you have that culture that lingers in your mind that's always saying you always look if you look your best, you're going to feel your best, and you're going to feel confident, you're going to go attack the world and do what you want. But that strong voice of self-doubt started to creep in because I started looking at myself a little bit more critical. And then I started to see the different features. I needed to lose weight. I needed to, so you begin to at yourself. And one of those things was just, unfortunately, my hair. It was not coming back. I tried different treatments. I tried minoxidil. It worked for a little bit, but then unfortunately, my hair just kept falling out. So
about what age were you when you finally started seeking a treatment?
So I would probably say around 20. No, what am I? 20. I wish I was in my 20s. But I started losing my hair.
Now you're just losing your mind.
You know what I mean? My hair's thinning and so is my memory. Forget how to count. Now, I would say about 2 years ago is when I really started looking at different options that I could really entertain that were feasible for me, for my lifestyle, and making sure that I kept up with it. Minoxidil was an option, started becoming really popular. And yeah, I mean, of course you want to grow your own hair. You want to grow whatever you have, you want to, whatever I read about it, whatever I, learned about it, it seemed like a good feasible option. But unfortunately, my hair just kept, getting progressively worse. And that's when I turned to the solutions that I found, which was, with HairClub.
Now, were you using HairClub as a consultant to talk to when you were in there, when you went with the minoxidil and things like that? Or are you just kind of going on your own? Where were you getting the information to try to cure your hair loss issues?
So I started reading on my own because, I didn't want to alert anybody here at the office. I didn't, to let them think about that, I was worried, because I carried myself well in the office. And well, at least I thought I did.
Till your daughter set you right.
Yeah, until my daughter put me right. And then I knew that there was options available at HairClub. And I really sat down with the consultants and they looked at me and the different stylists. I used to get my hair cut there all the time. And they would tell me like, hey, you really ought to do something about it. I thought they were just joking, just because that's kind of my nature, is just to joke around. But there was this one stylist, Tina, she really sat me down and said, hey, look, you're getting progressively worse and, it's not looking good. So you could either do something about it now or just wait till there's really nothing left to do except for either shave it off or, find other options. So I started investigating it. I looked at the different options. I read about it. The consultants that I knew, they informed me about what was going to happen, how it worked, and all that. And yeah, I mean, I was happy. I was like, oh, cool. All right, this is an option. But then I saw that, after 4 or 5 months, after the 6th month, I saw a little bit of progressiveness, and then it just wasn't working out. So then back to square one.
Every hair loss journey is unique. Just like Oscar, I went through different options before setting on one that was just right for me. Now, many people choose to start with a regrowth option like minoxidil or finasteride, and for some people, the journey ends there. Others use these options for a while and then they may switch to something else down the road. It's a matter of looking at all of the possible options and figuring out what is going to give you the results you want. One of the main concerns people have when looking for a hair loss solution is they want it to look both good and they want it to feel real. Now, most people want to achieve a natural look with their hair replacement, and that can be tough when you take into account how unique each person's hair textures and color patterns are.
So it's interesting, right? So I've always had just, a push because of my thinning hair. I just always pushed it back and brushed it off to the side. And, hopefully with enough gel, it would just stay put and sort of look sort of thin or thicked out, filled out. But, I let my hair grow out as long as it could grow. And then I said, look, my hair is wavy. Of course, I got salt and pepper patches everywhere. So my natural hair is also, salty in some areas and just peppered her out throughout. And my worry was, and one of the things that I was so apprehensive about it was, I'm just going to get this jet black, thing put on my head, the system on my head, and it's going to look so different. And when they spun me around in that chair and they looked at, I looked at myself in the mirror. I mean, because of the conversations I had with the stylist and the image consultant and everybody, the team there, they took the wave pattern of my hair in consideration. My hair is not completely 100% black. They matched the hair color. They matched the white spots in areas that look natural. Even the way I brush my hair, they formed it so that it just became something so secondary to me or so natural to me because it's my hair.
Right.
I turned around and I looked in the mirror and I said, holy smokes, I haven't seen this guy in a long time. And
I often say that with my hair system, it takes 10 to 15 years off. You look that much younger and it's radical. Would you say about the same for you?
Same thing. And funny story I should tell. Well, one of the funny things that happened to me when I reintroduced myself to my family, because it's sort of a reintroduction to your family, right? It was especially to my mom when I went to go see her after I got my system on my hair back. And she looked at me and she just smiled and you could see her getting teary eyed. It's like, oh, you look like you were back when you were, in your 20s, still living at the house, before you went off to college. And so the most interesting part also is, my biggest critic. When I went back to her and I showed my family my hair, and they just sort of they're at home in the dining room table. I came up to them, walked into the door. They knew I was getting something done. They didn't have no idea what to expect. And they all looked at me with big smiles and I was so happy and they were happy. But my youngest, who was my Achilles heel, she came up and she, ran her fingers through it and she was like, that just looks amazing. And I myself felt so much younger, so much happier. I mean, you begin to slouch down because of your posture of, self-doubt and, lack of confidence. And then you felt yourself walking straight up again. I mean, I was walking, head on, looking people in the eye again and not worrying about, are they looking at my hair? Are they looking at my hairline? Are they looking at my troubled areas? That all got washed away and you could focus on what you wanted to do.
It is heartwarming to hear just how Oscar's family embraced his new look and how that allowed him to go forward with confidence. The idea of that moment when the people you know see you for the first time with hair again seems daunting because you don't know what people are going to think or say. It's important to make decisions like this for yourself because at the end of the day, the people in your life who matter most will just want you to be happy and do whatever makes you feel great. And just like so many of our guests, these are things Oscar wishes he could have done differently earlier in his hair loss journey. His message is powerful. Don't be afraid to seek solutions and take that first step towards change.
That's something I thought a lot about. And, being Latino, especially for Latino men, recognizing or acknowledging that something is missing or something is wrong with you or that you feel that something's off about you, because image is everything to us. To not be afraid, and to everybody, to not be afraid. Look, there are solutions to the problem. There are solutions to hair loss problems, and HairClub was one of those solutions for me, and it gave me my hair back. And, this has been said numerous times, in the many shoots and conversations I've had with different clients and members of HairClub and even other people. It's just, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have taken the steps, to prevent hair loss or to prevent the progressiveness of the hair loss, or at least to have enough information to make an educated guess or an educated decision what the best plan of action is for you. It was this, and to not wait. If I've lived it, hair loss is progressive. It's true. I lived it 100%, and as the years went by, you could totally tell I was in denial. So you got to sort of snap yourself out of it and take a moment and really realize this is something that you can do for yourself. This is something I did for me to bring me back to where I was before. And it's not so much where I was before, but it's just to give me a new level of pushing forward. I don't have to worry about my hair missing from my thought process. It's right there. It's so I can focus on what I need to do and go for it. And my confidence came back. It came back 100%.
What's fascinating is that you talked about how you were hesitant, even though you worked with the HairClub team. And my first consultation I had at HairClub, I skipped. I just didn't go in. And then I booked it again. And the second time I convinced myself to go in. And that's what I would tell anybody. I think it was self-doubt. It was thinking that this is something that I couldn't afford, that I couldn't do, but knowing that you're going to walk in there and you're going to have nothing but love and support, and you're going to come out with solutions and remedies that fit your budget, you would race in there. And so for me, telling myself, don't skip that first appointment. The sooner you get in there, the sooner you get the solution and the sooner you get your self-confidence back. So it's kind of odd that you are even in there working with that team and you're a little hesitant yourself. So I think everybody probably is for whatever reason.
No, 100%. You get the stigmas, surrounding, having a hair system. You go back to the commercials, whatever. And you have people, saying things in your ear. My brother-in-law, he would make fun if you ever get hair, I'm just going to laugh at you. That, different things like that. So you would hear people just drop those little bits and pieces of self-doubt. But at one point, you're just like, you know what? I need to do this. What will be the biggest change if I go in there? And the biggest change is, myself, me. It's getting myself back. There's nothing else that I can say. It's just get in there, sit down, get yourself educated. I mean, we have the best of the best people that understand. I mean, we've been doing this for 40 some odd years, almost 50 years. So there's knowledge to be had. There's knowledge to be learned. And there's a solution for what all types of hair losses that we have.
Absolutely. So, well, I love your story, and it's interesting that it took a daughter. I know what a daughter's opinion can do to a dad, so I get the power of that, and I'm glad that you're where you are, and what a testament to HairClub. Thank you very much for joining us today. Oscar, it's great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I love this conversation with Oscar because I know it's going to resonate with people who have faced similar challenges. His story is all about seeking solutions that work for his unique needs, which is a great reminder that hair loss restoration isn't just about aesthetics. It's about regaining confidence and embracing one's true self. For more inspirational stories and words of wisdom from people who have been through hair loss, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for listening to another episode of HairPod. Check us out at HairClub on Instagram or search HairPod on Facebook to continue the conversation. If you know someone who could benefit from hearing this episode, we would love it for you to share with them. If you're enjoying the show, consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. We also have a website. Check it out by going to podcast.hairclub.com. We're here to build people up and share real stories so people experiencing hair loss feel a little bit less alone. And when you share, review, and subscribe, it helps us do just that. So thank you. Until next time.